How you feel?
That game featured a lot of emotion, a lot of peaks and valleys, and I talked to the team about after the game. We're not playing great basketball, but we have to stick with it and find our own rhythm within that. And we found a group there at the end of the game that got a good rhythm and swung the momentum back into our favour.
Hey, Coach. Can you just speak to us how you guys went down about 10 points there in that fourth quarter, just rallying as a team, come back and ice the game on the road?
Yeah, we called timeout because our defensive responsibilities were just breaking down Leafa hits, back-to-back threes, Parker's getting in the paint. And they did a nice job of just climbing on the glass all night long, so we needed to rectify our rebounding as well as taking away some guys' tendencies. So once we did that, it's amazing how then the fortune goes in your way, and we played some nice offense and guys hit big shots at different times.
It's obviously hard to contain a player like Parker Jackson-Cartwright, but you had guys like Ben Henschel, Dante Russo-Nance stepped up big in this game as well.
Yeah.
Can you speak to their ability on that defensive end?
Talk to those guys about Dante having that assignment from the get-go, and then Henny coming in and doing the same thing, and then Latmayan had an opportunity as well. So you're never going to control him for 40 minutes, but if we can do that in our favour for a little longer, that works out. And I'm not sure what his final statistics were, but just making his shot selection a little more inefficient.
Also, Dylan Windler, he had a good game, 15 rebounds, 6 of those, I believe, offensive rebounds.
Yep.
Can you just speak to his experience, being someone that's played in the NBA, what that means to your team?
Yeah, look, when we were fortunate enough to get Dylan last year, we knew rebounding was like a strong suit. So that he's bringing that every night. I know he was a little disappointed with his performance last week, so for him to bounce back like that, and then once he figures out how to get to the foul line a little bit, that'll only add to his game.
Thanks, Coach. And Kristian, how does it feel to get that first win? Obviously, you had that big three at the end there as well. Got the team all energized. How does it feel to get your first win of the season?
Feels good. We were, like Coach said, we were disappointed with how we played last week. So we had a good week of practice leading up into this game. And felt like we owed ourselves a bounce back performance. Like he said, this game was up and down, but it tested our resilience to be able to come back and win in the fourth.
Good word, dude.
Resilience. One journalist online. Do you want to speak, Chris?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with you, JR. You talked about finding a group in that fourth quarter that were able to turn the momentum back in your favour, and Jiren was a massive part in that. Can you talk about how I felt defensively he helped to turn the tide, and then for that huge three that he hits, his first NBL points, that was a massive moment for him.
Yeah, it was one of those moments for me. Am I the coach or the father, and what you trust, what you don't trust in the moment, but most importantly, his teammates trusted him, and you saw that with how they closed the game. So, very good.
When you do talk to him after the game now, is it more as a coach, is it as a dad? You're proud in both senses, but do you feel like you're more of a dad or more of a coach when you talk to him?
I'll let you know later, because this is the first time I've dealt with that emotion to it all. He probably won't want to talk to me anyway, so that's all right.
But even if he's not your son, he was a massive reason why you turned that game back in your favour. And for a development player, a guy playing his first NBL minutes, it's a massive moment.
Yeah, and look, what I also talked about after the game with this group is different guys are going to have their moments, and we have an explosive team. We just haven't found that groove right now, so we got to figure out just how to scrap and claw our way. And that last quarter was a good look at how we can create something out of nothing and just swing the momentum of a game. They did the same thing earlier on to get up 10 points. That place was buzzing, and we had to call a timeout to try and settle it down. So we rectified it. Guys spoke up well in the timeout, and we went out there with a good purpose of what we were trying to do.
You know what JLA is capable of, and there's times where he just looks completely unguardable and unstoppable out there, and he still ends up with a really efficient performance tonight. Are you still sort of only scratching the surface on just how much of an impact he can have?
look, for the players that are of that ilk, it all works together. Like when Doo's playing at that level, when we get Mason Jones functioning at a higher level, then everyone's job gets a little bit easier, and then the opposition has to decide what to do. But like right now, the way Joe played last week, moments tonight with his efficiency offensively, like he tonight he really just got some timely baskets for us when we were really struggling. And then down the end, you know, when you get Windler, Doolittle, and Joe on the glass, like the good success will follow when we get that effort and mentality every night.
Obviously a bit of a tough night for Mason, but I'm sure you've still got full confidence that he'll be able to find his feet.
See, like this is where you guys worry about the statistics. In the third quarter, he moved the ball, he found his teammates, you know, so like Mason Jones, like let's not forget, like his impact on the game can be in many different ways. And then like I felt like he got us into a nice little rhythm in the third quarter, and he's very mindful of his teammates and trying to get them involved because he has the ultimate confidence in himself to get it going.
And Kristian, can you give a little bit of an insight in a fourth quarter like that, where you're playing on the road, the opposition team goes on a 15-0 run, they've got all the momentum. How, as a playing group, are you able to turn that around and go and score 17 straight points yourselves to get this win?
It started with defensive rebounding and sticking to our game plan. I feel like while they were able to make a lot of shots, there were lapses in our defensive coverage to where we had done a pretty good job of it all game. And then when we started focusing on different things, you can see, we're not necessarily doing our job well. Poor communication and understanding who we're guarding. And, at the end of the day, everyone's a professional, so you have to treat them like that. We practice all week on focusing on what their strengths are. And so whenever you don't honor, what we said to do as a team, it can come back to bite you. So once we figured that out and was able to get, limit them to one shot and was able to get out and run, we were able to swing the tide in our favor.
All right. Obviously, you yourself were able to have a big part in that fight back. So was Dylan, so was Joe. But for an experienced teammate to see somebody like Jiren come out and do what he did in that fourth quarter, what does that do for you as one of the leaders on the team?
What Jiren making a shot do for me? Hey, I'm glad. Listen, like he said, it was Jiren tonight, but it could be anybody else in that situation. I drove baseline and I drew two, understanding that when someone's getting double teamed, someone's gonna be open, and they didn't rotate to him, and he stepped up and knocked it down with confidence, just like I would expect any of my teammates to do in that situation. So, tonight he gets that glory, but at any given time it could be anybody else in that situation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
No worries. Cheers.